And so there's a few different things I want to talk about. First, I'm always talking about sort of the inner work and the outer work of leadership and facilitation. And I think we have to always keep in mind the inner work, just like you said, Jake, it was so great. You were like, I hope I do a good job, and you'll do a great job. I think it always starts with that self-management of, I hope I can do this. I hope I can guide this group. And so whenever someone says something that we feel might be off topic, we're only usually rude if we're like triggered and worried. So the first thing we need to do is recognize that ideally everyone that's in your meeting is there for a reason. And we don't want to shut them down. We want to enable people to contribute. So we have to kind of bracket that, like, why did they say that? Are they trying to get us off topic? We can't go there. Um, and just instead get a little bit curious, like, okay, I wonder what it is that they're bringing. I wonder how I can include what this person is bringing and still move the conversation along. So that inner work is super important to be able to meet whatever comes to you in a way that is kind of grounded. Then we get to the outer work. This is like the actual skills, the facilitative behaviors that we apply to keep a group moving in the same direction together. And we talk a lot about preventions and interventions. These are things that you can use at any time to, gather the kiddies together and be like, all right, here we go. Let's go in the same direction. So one of the best preventions that you can give yourself and the group as a gift to your future self is a good desired outcome. That is having a clear idea of what is the work that we're doing today. What do we want to walk away from this meeting with? So that when someone says something that you feel is off topic, you can say, thanks, I appreciate you bringing that. May I remind us all that what we want to walk out of this meeting is this. And I think that might get us a little off into the weeds. Can we get back to the work at hand? If that doesn't work and they're adamant, like, no, I think this really does connect, then we can get curious. We can use some listening skills and try to understand, okay, what is it about what you're bringing that's important? And when we can use those listening skills, usually two things happen. Either we get clear that, oh, they have brought something of value and now we see how it's connected, or they get clear that they've actually brought something a little bit off topic. And then the last, like, if none of that works and they just keep driving it home and it doesn't seem connected, one of the best tools that we have for this is accept, legitimize, deal with, or defer. And this is a tool that really works to acknowledge the contribution of the person, and then you decide, are we going to deal with this now? Is this something the group has to talk about, or are we going to move forward? So someone brings something that seems off topic and you legitimize what they've said. You say, thank you for that contribution. I can see how that's connected to the work that you do. And then if you're going to defer it, you say something like, let's capture that in the group memory and you and I can talk about that another time, because I think we want to really move forward with this. Or you decide to deal with it and say, maybe we take 5 minutes to talk about this. All right, that was a lot. I'll leave it there and see if maybe the other colleagues have something to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like that summation of the internal work too. That's, I feel like, a piece that's kind of forgotten. There's a little bit you have to do internally to deal with that.
A lot, really.
Maybe a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said, Rachel, about desired outcomes, because I do think that can really focus the conversation. I think, to build on what you said, if you're in a meeting with people and it's a little bit loose, a little bit unstructured, make sure people are really clear on what you want them to do process-wise in the next 5 minutes. So, for example, let's say we're talking about the budget and we're talking about how are we reimagining the budget next year, and we're trying to come up with some sort of maybe revenue target number for our budget. If somebody brings up an issue around expenses, and expenses they feel like are not related to the topic at hand, we could artfully point them back and say, well, right now, for the next 5 minutes, we're just focused on revenue. And what I want you to do is I want everyone to spend 2 minutes privately thinking about our revenue. And then I want you to throw out a revenue target in chat or on the whiteboard, and let's actually have a collaborative conversation around it. So you're giving people the desired outcome of where you want to go, but you're also providing very clear process direction on what you want people to do. My experience is if you don't give people clarity on what you want people to do, they'll just do whatever, and people will start, especially extroverts who like to think by talking out loud. That's sometimes how people are thinking, is they're actually talking and they're using that as a way to actually express themselves or express their ideas. We want to be mindful of that as facilitators on how we're actually facilitating the conversation.
Like that. Yeah. Anything to add, Kate?
I just think, clarity is key. And someone mentioned Brene Brown. I think she said, or maybe quoted someone else, that clear is kind, right? So bringing the group back to your desired outcome, to group agreements, giving someone a signal that you've heard what they've said, maybe sum up what they've been talking about in a few phrases, and then say, here's where we're trying to go. Is there anyone who wants to bring us back to, what we have to discuss at hand? So I think just being clear in and of itself is kind, and maybe change your idea of what feels rude.
I like that a lot.